Hey guys, Average Scarecrow here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Thank you so much for dropping by the channel. As always, I really appreciate it. Today, we're going to be continuing the video series of videos I'm doing, ranking every legendary I have 6-starred in the game. I actually have every single legendary on my account 6-starred with masteries done. Not all of them have books done, and not all of them are awakened, obviously, but for the most part, they are maxed out. And for the most part, I've used everyone to some extent. So this video is going to be giving them a letter grade, and I'm going to try to be fair to all of them. I'm going to try to not just rank them on end game viability. So a lot of champions don't have really any end game viability, but they are really, really, really good in everything prior. So it might be a little unfair to rank them low just because you're not using them in gold 5, platinum tier arena and Centranos hard mode and all the hard versions of dungeons and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to be as fair as possible. And we're doing magic affinity today, which as I was getting my list ready, I have a list here. I didn't use a list last time. I decided to use one this time to keep my mind focused. I realized just how stacked magic affinity is, in my opinion, right? This is all subjective, of course, but in my opinion, magic affinity has some nasty champions in the lineup. So I'm excited to get started. I do have 45 Magic Affinity Legendary Champions to get through. So I'm going to try to speed through them as quick as possible. The kits, at least, I'll talk about where I use them, where I think they're best at, in what areas, and whether or not they helped my account, or in some cases I would pull a champion and they weren't just that good, even when I got them in the early game. So having said that, we're going to start off with Foley here, an attack-based Dark Elf champion, one of the cooler-looking champions in the Dark Elves faction. He's got the kind of, in my opinion, the scarab look to him. Foley he's really good. He's got a 4-time hitter on the A1 with a chance of drop defense. He's got a 4-time random hitter on the A2 with a chance of placing leech. He's got an AoE on the A3 that then targets a single enemy, so a 2-time hitter on one enemy. It's turn meter reduction, and then enemies killed by the skill cannot be revived. So it's an AoE block revive. He's got a passive that instantly removes a stun, freeze, sleep, or provoke on this champion, heals him by 20% of his max HP, and boosts his turn meter by 50% on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Foley is a very good arena champion. He falls off a little bit once you start encountering things like Stone Skin, unkillable, block damage, things like that. He doesn't have any ignore mechanics in there, but Foley was my main damage dealer in arena up until I started encountering all those things. So until they started implementing things like Stone Skin into the game, and things like block damage became more accessible, Foley was my #1 damage dealer. I utilized this guy all the time on my main team. I ran him, Arbiter, Stag Knight, and then I think I ran Deacon as well for another turn meter manipulator. So very, very cool. He is very good in Fire Knight normal, and he can be serviceable in hard mode if you just need a champion to get that shield down with a 4-time hitter on the A1 and a 4-time hitter on the A2. So really knocking those shields down, and then Ice Golem as well because of the AoE block revive on the A3. So Foley, even though he falls off a little bit in the end game, he's super versatile. Clan boss as well because of the leech, and the 4-time hitters makes him very, very good to have Giant Slayer on the masteries to get more damage out of that for clan boss. So Foley, I'm going to give him a B-. I think that if he had a little bit more ignore mechanics in his kit, he could be super end game viable for arena. But in everything prior to like the late end game, this guy's really good. I'm still a really big fan of Foley. Moving on from there, we've got Ninja, the Shadowkin attack-based damage dealer. Ninja, that was way long ago, back when Ninja collabed with Raid Shadow Legends, but he was a very good champion then. He's a very good champion now. He's got a single target attack on the A1 with drop defense and turn meter boost when it's used against bosses. He's got a 3-time random hitter, with each hit having a 100% chance of placing HP burn for 3 turns and perfect fail on himself. And when it's used against bosses, he has instant activation of the HP burns as well. So it's on a 3-turn cooldown. This is the Hailburn ability. This was a boss annihilator when it first came into the game, and it still does do tons of damage against bosses. He's got an AoE on the A3 here on a 4-turn cooldown with a chance of placing freeze. But when he targets a boss, it only attacks the boss and ignores 50% of the target's defense and decreases the cooldown of the hail burn skill, the A2, by 1 turn. So getting back around to that HP burn. He's got the escalation passive, so we can get up to 100% more attack, 25% crit damage when he uses all 3 of his abilities on a target enemy. So you have to do it 10 times to get the for the attack and 5 times for the crit damage against normal enemies, but against bosses, it's by 20% up to 100% and 10% up to 25%. So you only have to use it about 5 times to get the full amount. This means that against things like the clan boss, he is an absolute monster. I pair mine with a Mikage on traditional clan boss, and I don't even really put him in that good of gear, and I still get upwards of 1 billion damage on the hardest difficulty of classic clan boss. He's really good against any boss in the game. He's good against the new bosses in Grim Forest. So Ninja, even though I would say the one area he doesn't thrive is Arena, obviously. You don't see ninjas at all in Arena. You did initially when he first came in with new players because he was free, but he just doesn't have the kit, in my opinion, for an Arena champion. So the reason I'm not grading him S tier is because he isn't super viable in Arena. He can be serviceable for newer players who are progressing through Arena, but because he's not really top tier in Arena, I'm not going to give him S tier, but I am going to give him A+ tier. This guy is phenomenal in PvE content. We've got Pixneal. I have a +1 empowered Pixneal. The reason I +1 empowered my Pixneal, it was before Faction Guardians, and I was so annoyed at getting another Pixneal that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to empower her. You know what? I'm not even going to use her as a chicken. I'm just going to empower her. And I actually have... Do I have another... I think I have another Pixneal. So I don't max out duplicates. That's the big thing. I do. I have another Pixneal. And I'm not going to empower my Pixneal again because of Faction Guardians, but I actually could have a +4 fully awakened Pixneal because I've gotten so many duplicates. I just used some of them as chickens in the way back when, and I sold the 6-star soul because I hate Pixneal. But I could have a +4 fully awakened Pixneal. Having said that, even if I did that, she still wouldn't be that good. She's got a perfect veil on the ally with the lowest HP on the A1 on a single target. She's got an increased defense, continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies under freeze, and then she places a weaken on all enemies under a freeze as well. It would be kind of cool if this were just a freeze and weaken ability. That would be kind of interesting. But then she's got an AoE with a 100% chance of placing freeze on a 4-turn cooldown. That's it. Nothing else really to it. She's got this passive that she's immune to freeze and then fills her turn meter every time an ally gets a freeze by 25%, and then removes all freeze debuffs from all allies at the end of each enemy or ally turn. It would be nice if it were at the beginning, though, because then you could, get away from your champions would get frozen before the turn, not after the turn. So this is also on a 2-turn cooldown, but you need a lot of books. Pixneal needs 7. 7 plus 6 is 13, 14, 15, 18 books to fully book out Pixneal, and you're not getting a whole lot out of her kit. The A2 is in my opinion, it's a good support ability with some control. I do like the A2, but the A1 and the A3 are not very good. The passive is okay, but it's on a 2-turn cooldown, which I don't like. So Pixneal, she's been buffed a couple times. However, I still don't think they've done her justice. In fact, they actually gave her a nerf for Fire Knight Hard because this ability, I think it was this ability, used to be a 5-time hitter, I think is what it was. And every hit after the first hit had a 100% chance of placing freeze or something like that. So you're basically getting a 100% turn meter reduction ability on Fire Knight Hard mode, but it was actually a soft nerf to Pixneal over there. So having said that, the buffs did work a little bit. So I'm going to give Pixneal a C-. I think I'm being a little generous. I think she's worthy of, you know what, D+. I don't like Pixneal. D+. Xenomorph after that. Xenomorph, another attack-based Dark Elf here. Really good free champion on the A1. He's got a single target attack that places a poison for 2 turns or 3 poisons if the attack is critical, and places perfect veil on himself. He's got the single target stun and infest, which can't be resisted if he's under a perfect veil, and then true fear on all other enemies that can't be resisted if he's under a perfect veil, and then revives him with 50% HP and 50% turn meter whenever an enemy under an infest debuff dies. So infest is going to do combustion damage. So you place the infest, that champion dies, and then it does a combustion damage equal to, I think it's like 50% of the target's HP to all other enemies. So you can do a lot of damage with this ability. He's got a 2-time hitter on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown that deals 15% more damage for each poison on the target, and then places perfect veil on himself for 2 turns. He's got the passive here where he's got a 25% chance to place a poison every time he's attacked, which can't be resisted or blocked if it's a critical hit, and then he destroys the defensive enemies with poisons placed by this champion by 20%. He's a really good damage dealer. He's sneaky good because you don't think like he's going to do a lot of AoE damage, but then that combustion from the infest actually does a sneaky amount of damage when you kill that target. So he's really good. The A1 absolutely smacks. The A3 absolutely smacks if you get enough poisons on him. Even without the poisons, it still hits hard. But I've had this hit for almost 3 million against Dragon Hard 10. So this ability can absolutely eviscerate bosses if you place enough poisons on them. I have Xenomorph as an A. Again, I'm going to reserve like the A, I'm sorry, like the S tier champions for like champions that are exceptional in PvE and PvP. And unfortunately, he's not super good in PvP. It's hard to make him work. And even though he can do a sneaky amount of damage on an AoE on this ability because of the infest, he does lack a true AoE ability, in my opinion, which does hurt him a little bit. Moving on from there, Artak, HP-based champion out of the Orcs. This guy was another free champion. He's got AoEs on all of his abilities. There's some cool stuff you can do with him as far as solo builds go with like Ice Golem Hard 10. It is a little hard to make it work, but still really, really good. He's got an AoE on the A1 with a 45% chance of extending HP burns. He's got an AoE on the A2 that instantly activates 1 tick of HP burn on all enemies and then places drop attack for 2 turns. He's got a 2-time hitter on the A3 on an AoE with a 100% chance of placing HP burn. He's also got this cool synergy. I'm not going to go through it all, but he's destroying his own max HP, which is then scaling his damage up, but then he's restoring his max HP for every HP burn that activates on the enemy. So he's going to like destroy his own HP, deal a ton more damage, restore his HP and heal based on HP burns. It's really, really cool. So Artak, again, not super viable in Arena, although you can, because he's got AoE on the A1, you can use him in a blender comp to get rid of Mercurial now. So he could serve a role, but I don't think he's super good in Arena. I think he's really, really good in PvE. So I'm going to give Artak another A. He's kind of in the same category as Xenomorph, whereas Xenomorph is doing exceptional single target damage. Artak has tons of AoE versatility. So I really, really like Artak. He's going to get an A out of me. Moving on from there, we've got Eryx. I am partial to Eryx. I love Eryx. If I'm being honest with you, the aesthetic, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking champions in the game. She's got the crown of chain links here with the smoke coming out. She definitely looks like a vampire warrior. She's got this awesome sword with the awesome armor. I love Eryx. She's an HP-based damage dealer. She also has an AoE on the A1 that has a 35% chance of removing a random buff from each target. She's got an AoE on the A2 with a 75% chance of placing stun and then buff transfer to enemies that receive the stun. She's got ally protect on all allies for 2 turns, and she's got a counter attack on herself for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So leading into more AoEs on the A1 is really, really cool. And then she's got this cool passive where she's getting turn meter filled by 5% each time an ally inflicts a critical hit, and then heals her by 5% every time an enemy inflicts a critical hit. So some healing, a lot of turn meter fill because she's got an AoE on the A1. You can actually pair her with 4-piece Slayer, and she can solo. So I put her in 4-piece Slayer, 4-piece Bloodthirst, and she can solo Spider Hard 10 because she's going to be churning out turn after turn after turn after turn. So Eryx was my main wave clearer back in the day. I use her. She's still my campaign farmer as well. 6-second campaign farmer. So she's really good there. She's good against, not really good against bosses, but as a wave clearer, it doesn't get much better than Eryx. She's got survivability because she's an HP based champion. AoE, so you can put her in a stun set, blender comps as well. I am a huge fan of Eric's. I love the buff removal. Huge fan of Eric's. I'm going to go with an A minus because unlike champions like Artak and Xenomorph, she doesn't have a lot of utility against bosses, whereas they have HP burns and poison. So hurts her a little bit in that regard, but I love Eric's, man. So an A minus for Eric's. Kreela Witch Arm. I've got her. Well, I guess why don't I read the kit first? She's got a single target attack on the A1 with a shield, 10% of her max HP on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns. That's not bad. She's got a single target stun for 1 turn and then has a 100% chance of joining up with 3 random allies to attack a random enemy, and then they'll use their default skill. I don't like that necessarily. It's good to have an ally attack, but it's a random enemy with random allies. Not a huge fan of that. And then she's got increased attack, increased crit rate on all allies for 3 turns, and then attacks all enemies on a 5, books to a 4-turn cooldown. So longer cooldown, but longer duration as well. So that's fine. The random ally attack with random allies really hurts her. If this were a all ally attack against a targeted enemy, I would give her A tier because I do like the damage buffs and I do like the shield on the A1 and I like the stun with the ally attack as well. I guess maybe, you know, it wouldn't be as good if it were targeted because then you're stunning the enemy and killing the enemy, so the stun doesn't really matter. So maybe a stun on a target enemy attacks a random enemy, but all allies attack would be better. Having said that, I think she's still serviceable as an ally attacker, but I'm going to give her a B minus for that. I think that's probably fair. Mavara, the Web Diviner, the new fusion champion, support champion out of the Dark Elves. A lot of Dark Elves to start off with, right? I think we're on 3 or I guess only 3, to be fair. I'm a huge fan of Mavara, the Web Diviner. She's got a single target attack, which places Fervor on a random ally except herself for 2 turns. And then she's got a passive. It's a 50-50 chance of joining the attacks of all allies, or I'm sorry, all allies under a fervor have a 50% chance of joining in with the attack of another ally under a fervor buff. So you have a 50-50 ally attack on the A1, which is really cool. I pair her with Glorious Palace, and it's ally attacks left and right. I love it. She's got strengthen and increased resistance for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, but also an equalize the HP level of all allies brought up to the ally with the highest HP. It's not, it's not the average level of the HP. It's the ally with the highest HP on a 3-turn cooldown. So ally HP equalizers are some of the best heals in the game because you can take someone with like no HP back up to full HP. So this can be like an 80,000 heal because of how strong it is. So it's a really solid heal. She's got a single target revive with 50 HP, 50 turn meter, perfect veil on all allies except this champion, and unkillable on this champion for 2 turns. But you can place the perfect veil on unkillable even if no allies are dead. She's got a passive here for every 8 buffs the enemy team receives, increases the turn meter of all allies by 20%, and 16 buffs that allies receive heals all allies by 20% of their max HP. Speed in arena battles by 28 is also really good as well. Mavara, the Web Diviner, she's a solid arena champion if you're looking for a kind of tanky, fast, resistance-based champion. The Fervor is really nice in arena as well to get some ally attacks. She's good in Hydra. She's a really solid fear counter in Hydra. She's really good against the classic clan boss, again, because of the A1. So you're going to be ally attacking more. There's some really fun comps you can do with this champion. I'm using her a lot. I'm going to give Mavara, the Web Diviner, an A. I think she's a solid reviver as well on a 3-turn cooldown. I do like that. Cassandra, actually, guys, give me 1 second. I had to do this last time, but I'm trying to get through this fast, but it's making my throat a little sore. I'm not used to talking this much. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a drink and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to grab a drink, had to get some chapstick. My lips getting a little chapped there. Let's go ahead and just jump right back into it. So we've got Cassandra here, attack-based champion out of the Argonauts faction. She was the Assassin's Creed Fusion champion, and Cassandra has grown on me the more that I use her. I think she's actually a really solid single target damage dealer. So she's got a 3-time hitter on the A1 or a 6-time hitter if the champion has 50% HP or less. Each hit decreases the enemy's turn meter by 7.5. I'm sorry, apologies. And increases this champion's turn meter by 7.5. So it's not like a turn meter steal, you don't have to get the turn meter reduction in order to get the turn meter fill. So you don't necessarily have to build her with a bunch of resistance. You'll still get part of it, which I do like. But it can't be resisted if she's under a Veil or Perfect Veil. She's got a single target attack on the A2, which places drop defense and an HP burn before attacking on for 3 turns, which can't be resisted if she's under Veil or Perfect Veil. She places a stun on all enemies for 1 turn if the damage exceeds 50% of the target's max HP, which can't be resisted if she's under Veil or Perfect Veil. She's got a full cleanse on herself on a 4-turn cooldown, a 50% heal, and a 50% turn meter fill, and places increased attack, shatter, and increased speed on herself for 2 turns. And then it prevents the champion's death and keeps them alive on 1 HP if they are under increased attack, shatter, and increased speed. So a little bit of survivability there, cleansing. You've got some unkillable action going on. It's pretty nice. And then she's got the Assassin's Creed passive. Whenever an enemy's HP drops below 25% after receiving damage from any assassin, it receives additional damage proportional to this champion's attack. She's also got a secondary passive. Whenever the champion attacks an enemy, increases the champion's attack by an amount equal to 50% of the target's defense. And then the vice versa, when she's attacked, increases her defense by an equal amount to 50% of the attacker's attack. So I will say that I thought this was going to scale her damage and reduce the damage she takes a lot more, but it doesn't seem like it does. I don't exactly know how to calculate it, but just going off of like my fifis, my feelings, my fifis, it doesn't seem like it does that much. She's got speed in all battles by 19%. This A2 ability can smack, man. She can hit really hard on this A2 ability, and the A1 can also deal a pretty decent amount of damage. But the turn meter reduction and turn meter fill makes her really good for Fire Knight normal, makes her really good for Dark Fae, which is this rotation that we're on right now. So Dark Fae champion. So some utility against bosses there. I do like that. She's got AoE stuns, which is great for just crowd control. She's got irresistible stuff. The only thing that she really doesn't have is the Perfect Veil. So the Perfect Veil does hurt her a little bit because she doesn't have it. I would love if they would add that in to this ability right here so that she can get some irresistible action going on. The 19% in all battles is really good. Speed in all battles by 19% is really good. Having said that, again, she lacks true AoE damage. Not a whole lot of, not any ignore mechanics in here, so not a whole lot of utility in Arena, although the 3-time hitter is good for Mercurial on the A1, and you could potentially use her as a hybrid damage dealer stun champion, although again, with Mercurial and Stone Skin, she does take a little bit of a hit. So even though I've grown on Cassandra, I'm still only going to give her a B- because of those things right there, but really good against some of the bosses, really good. I'm assuming she's going to be really good in Faction Wars, however, we haven't gotten there. And Donatello, I got a hot take about Donnie. I don't know if this is a hot take now, but I said from the get-go that Donnie was the best Ninja Turtle that they added into the game. I think that he's better than Leonardo. I will fight and die on that hill because I know a lot of people, and I'm a huge fan of Leonardo. Did I say Leonardo or did I say Donatello again? Donatello, in my opinion, is better than Leonardo. That's what I meant to say if that's not what I said before. I think I said Donatello is better than Donatello. If I did, that's my fault. But I think he's better than Leonardo. Leonardo is an exceptional champion, but Donatello has so much in his kit. I mean, it's a single target attack that heals all allies by 5% of this champion's max HP and instantly activates a continuous heal on all allies. He's got an AoE on a 4-turn cooldown that decreases the cooldown of all ally skills except his champions by 2 turns, places an increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. He's got a full cleanse, continuous heal, and strengthen on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and a 20% turn meter fill. He's got a passive here, the Ninja Turtle passive, but he's also got this active effect on a 4-turn cooldown. It prevents an ally's death when they are about to receive a fatal hit, and then equalizes the ally's HP, which will be brought up to the average HP level of the team. So on a 4-turn cooldown, you're just denying someone's death and healing them. And it's going to be a pretty substantial heal, right? It's going to be like 50, 60% as long as everyone else is alive and relatively healthy. He's also got a juicy HP in all battles by 30%. I use him in Arena with Righteous Stone Skin, but in PvE, I use him in Relentless and Righteous. So he's a super high resist champion. I've got him in Lightning Cage as well. I use this guy everywhere. He's my main support champion now all over the game. So I use him against I use him against all of the Doom Tower bosses. I use him in Grim Forest all the time. He's on my main arena team right now because of the cleanse, because of the preventative death, because of the reset. So I can go in, I can stun, I can reset, I can stun again. It's nasty, dude. And because of Relentless in PvE, you get back around to this ability way faster. He's on my best Chimera team. He's on my best Hydra team for Hydra, the hardest version of Hydra, Nightmare or whatever it is. I don't use him in traditional clan boss because I don't really need him in traditional clan boss. That one is really just all about ally attacks and shield growth. However, you could use him as a shield growth enabler because you're going to get back around to the shield growth because of this ability. So this guy is absolutely an S tier champion. I think he's the best Ninja Turtle. He's the best support champion on my account, even better than Void legendary support champions. Donatello is an absolute monster, and I think he's worthy of S tier status. We're actually going back to back S tier. Shocker. Crowhod the Throat Ripper is an S tier champion as well. I'm just going to spoil it for you. He's got an AoE on the A1 that deals single target damage to each target individually rather than AoE, which ignores reflect damage, ally protect, and pain link, and deals double damage when counterattacking if Packmaster Shayak is on the same team. He's got an AoE 2-time hitter on the A2, an AoE which places an extra hit under 2 or more debuffs on all enemies, and then places Leech and Weaken, which can't be resisted if Packmaster is on the same team. He's got this nasty ability right here. On a 3-turn cooldown, attacks one enemy, ignores half of their defense, as well as Life Barrier, Poison Cloud, and effects that redirect attacks, and deals repeats the attack once if Packmaster is on the same team. This ability in Hydra, I've seen it hit for like, I think the highest I ever saw it was upwards of 6 million damage altogether, so 3 and 3. He's got this passive here, increases this champion's attack by 5% when killing an enemy or Hydra head, up to 25%, or 10% up to 50% if Packmaster is on the same team, and then instantly activates the A3 when someone is devoured by that head if Packmaster is on the same team. So this guy is going to go in when someone is devoured, and he's going to ignore half of their defense, Life Barrier, Poison Cloud, and effects that redirect attacks, which means they can't stop him from hitting them with a ton of damage on this ability. He's got attack in all battles by 30%. Crowhod the Throat Ripper is, I mean, I just did, let me pull it up. Actually, I can just pull it up real quick because this guy is just so disgusting, man. If I go into Hydra Clash, we're in number 3 right now. So I did number 4 this week, barring anyone else with any final keys. But look at this damage out of Crowhod. So we did 1.94 billion damage. So we did 647.6 million damage here. And Crowhod the Throat Ripper did 487 million damage, more than 3 times the amount that Wallmaster Arthurian did. And Wallmaster Arthurian is a 2-time enemy max HP hitter. So Crowhod the Throat Ripper is, in all forms of PvE content, is S tier. So he is like, and even if you don't have Packmaster, he's still going to deal a ton of damage on these abilities. And the reason I'm giving him S tier, even though I don't use him in Classic Arena, is because I use him in Siege Defense. I actually have an all-Orc team. I can restrict it to just Orc teams. And I have Crowhod in a Stone Skin lethal build, and I have Packmaster Shayak in a 9-piece Mercurial set. And the counterattacks that you get off of that ability absolutely eviscerate the enemy team. It's absolutely disgusting, man. It's so much fun. So Crowhod the Throat Ripper, even though traditional arena, I don't think he's S tier. In in Siege Defense and Arena Defense as well, I think that he is very, very good. So Crowhod the Throat Ripper, a very worthy S tier in my opinion. All right. Moving on, we got Alice the Wanderer here. She was the free champion for the Alice in Wonderland event. I'm a real big fan of Alice. She's got a 2-time hitter on the A1 that places an extra hit if they have any active skills on cooldown, with each hit having a 100% chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff by 1 turn. Awesome. She's got an A2 here, an AoE, with a 3-turn cooldown that has a 100% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. So kind of like a mini warlord ability here. I really like it. And then also decreases the turn meter of enemies by 15%, or 30% if at least one of a target skills has its cooldown increased to the max. She's got a 2-time, or I'm sorry, not a 2-time hitter. She's got a single target on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown that ignores 20% defense. And if the initial target is killed, also attacks the enemy with the lowest HP that will also ignore 20% defense. But she's got a passive and an active here. Whenever this champion attacks, inflicts 3% more damage to each target for each turn remaining on all of their skills cooldown. So you can deal potentially, excuse me, sorry. You can deal potentially upwards of like 15 to 20% more damage on this ability. But then we have on her abilities, But then we also have the resets the cooldown of one of this champion's skills each time they kill an enemy. So she's got this hard hitting A3 here that can kill an enemy and then kill another enemy with the lowest HP, and then reset the same ability and go back in and do the same thing. It's really, really fun. Alice is actually viable in Arena because of this ability here. Even though she doesn't have the traditional damage dealing ignore mechanics, she can serve as a mini warlord, like I was saying, with this cooldown effect. So because of that, I'm actually going to give, let me pull it up here. I actually have Alice as an A-. She can serve a little bit in Arena. She doesn't have a whole lot of utility against bosses, but she can be a competent wave clearer as well that also offers some control. So I'm a big fan of Alice. I think she's really good. I use her mainly in Faction Wars now, but she's also, like I said, serviceable in Arena and serviceable as a wave clearer as well. Armand's the Magnificent, support champion, Barbarians. This guy was a menace, a nightmare in Arena when he was first released. Not as good anymore because of Total Guard, but still very viable. So he's got a single target on the A1 with a 55% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random active skill by 2 turns, and fills his turn meter by 10% for each turn added to the cooldown, so potentially 20% turn meter fill. He's got an AoE stun, which steals all of the turn meter of each target, unless they're under sheep, on a 3-turn cooldown with full turn meter steal. So he's basically getting an extra turn. So it's basically a 2-turn cooldown. This is a disgusting ability inside of Arena. Still really good if you're not going up against Total Guard. But he's also got this passive here on a 3-turn. The A3 on a 3-turn cooldown places a sheep on an enemy for 1 turn that cannot be blocked, and then has a 100% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies, and fills his turn meter by 5% for each buff removed on a 3-turn cooldown. So even if you have a Stone Skin champion in the Arena, you can just sheep him, just get rid of him. And then you can buff strip everyone else and get turn meter fill as well. So this guy's absolutely a menace in the Arena. He's got a passive here. Whenever a sheep is removed or expired, increases the cooldown of a random active skill on that enemy to its max, and then more turn meter fill by 10% for each turn added to the cooldown. Speed in Arena battles by 28%. Armand's here, I still have him as an A+ champion because I think if you pull this guy, you're going to use him. You're going to use him in Arena. You're going to use him a ton. Even though Total Guard hurts him a little bit, he's still an anti-Stone Skin champion. He's still an absolute menace if he gets rolling in Arena for control and decreasing cooldown effect or increasing cooldown effects. So Armand's still an A+ champion. I think the Total Guard hurts him enough to bring him from S tier to A+ tier. But even in PvE, this guy's really good. Dark Fae, like I was talking about earlier, very good. Faction Wars hard. S tier in Faction Wars hard. PvE content just as a control champion, very, very good. Lady Kimmy here. What does she do? She attacks one enemy and then attacks the enemy with the highest turn meter, and then attacks the same enemy twice if they are the one that has the highest turn meter. And then the second hit has a 50, books up to 60% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. Not bad. On the A2, she's got an AoE, decrease accuracy and decrease speed for 2 turns, and a 100% chance when booked of decreasing each target's turn meter by 15% on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. She's got to remove a random buff from each enemy, and then has a 75, books up to 100% chance of placing block buffs for 2 turns on enemies who have buffs removed, and then has a 15% turn meter fill and 50% increase accuracy, 30% increase speed on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. But there's a lot in that ability. She's got a passive here. Whenever this champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed, so more turn meter manipulation. And then whenever this champion or an ally receives a debuff, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received, so kind of a counter to some of the debuffs in the game as well. So speed Doom Tower battles by 30%. And funny enough, I actually think that she's really, really good in Doom Tower. Decreased accuracy is great. When paired alongside decreased speed as well. It just means that they'll not be able to get back around to their abilities that quickly, and they'll have a less of a chance of placing any debuffs on you, which I really like. The block buffs, the random buff from each enemy removal, the turn meter fill, the increased accuracy, the increased speed, really, really good. It's hard to say where exactly she fits in because I think you can use her in a lot of different areas. Certainly Doom Tower, she's very good. Arena, she has some utility. Maybe not so much in the end game, but until you're getting into the end game, I think she's very good in Arena. I think she can be serviceable in, obviously, just in Doom Tower as a speed lead. She has a lot of value there. So Lady Kimmy, kind of a hard one to grade. I think I'm going to give her an A-, though, because I think that until you get to end game Arena, I think she's exceptional in Arena because of the passive, because of all the turn meter buff removal, turn meter manipulation type stuff. So even though she's not as good in PvE, in my opinion, I think she's very, very good until you get to the higher tiers of Arena. Scylla the Drakes. Scylla the Drakes needs a little bit of love. She's still good, but she needs a little bit something to keep her updated in 2026. She's got a single target on the A1 with a 40% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns and a 50% chance of dropping the turn meter by 15%. Pretty solid A1. She's got a 2-time AoE hitter with each hit having a 35% chance of placing stun for 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. A fairly reliable stun. Not the best anymore, but still reliable. She's got a revive with 50% HP and ally protect for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. And then she's got a solid passive here. Heals all allies by 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn and places an increased speed on a random ally for 2 turns. I think the revive is the big thing here. I think they should spruce up the revive a little bit. Having no turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown, to me, is really power crept. Having said that, you get her pretty quick in the game. I think is it 60 or 90 days? I can't remember. I think I could pull it up real quick. If I go daily login. Oh, I'm sorry. So she's 180 days. I'm sorry. So she's over half a year into the game. I misspoke. I apologize. Having said that, by the time you get her, I still think that she's a solid champion. So a little bit tougher to grade because I think she has been power crept quite a lot. But what did I give her? I think I gave her like a B, right? A B- is what I gave her. So Scylla the Drakes, I think that the revive is pretty weak in today's day and age. The 2-turn AoE, or the 2-time hitter with a chance of placing stun is good, but it's not great anymore. There are a lot of epics with a better stun now. So I do think she needs a little bit of a buff to get her back into kind of the viability, in 2026 Raid Shadow Legends, but still a pretty solid champion altogether. He-Man, I have the power. He-Man, there's a movie coming out. You should go see it. Looks pretty good, even though Jared Leto's in it. Not a fan of Jared Leto, but I don't have to look at his face because he's Skeletor, so that's a win. He-Man, I love He-Man. He looks really cool, hits really hard. He's got a single target, single hitter, which places an extra hit on enemies under the from the corrupted faction? No. Corrupted Alliance, sorry, and then fills his turn meter by 10% and an additional 2% for each buff on this champion, damage based on attack and HP. So there's some cool ways to build it. On the A2 here on a 4-turn cooldown, it's a single target attack that places increased attack on himself for 2 turns before attacking, ignores Stone Skin, and then if the attack kills an enemy, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. Big turn meter fill, and you're ignoring Stone Skin, so that's really huge for Arena. On the A2, it's an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown. I have the power is a great ability name. The damage inflicted by the skill increases by 10% for each buff placed on this champion before the skill is used, up to 500% bonus damage. Absolutely gnarly. Resets after this skill is used. Obviously, that would be nasty if it were permanent. Regardless, this ability can absolutely annihilate everything in its path in PvE. So in Hydra, especially if you scale this up to its maximum, it can do a lot of damage. Having said that, it does take a little while to get it there. On the passive, he's got the heals or increases the champion's attack and HP by 5% for each buff placed on this champion, up to 50%, which is going to help him with his damage and survivability, which is great, and places a strengthen on the champion for 2 turns at the start of each round. And again, whenever their HP drops below 50%, and he's immune to petrification, which is kind of funny because Skeletor has petrification, so he's kind of immune to Skeletor, which is kind of interesting and fun. And then speed in arena battles by 28%. So He-Man is a very good champion. Very good champion. He's really good in arena. He's got a hard-hitting A2 with Terminator Fill that's placing increased attack and ignoring Stone Skin. The A1 hits really hard and it places an extra hit on enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, where a lot of meta champions in arena nowadays are from the Corrupted Alliance. So he's going to get 2 really hard hits on him, and then Turn Meter Fill as well. The AoE on the A3 is on a short cooldown that does a ton of damage. Even if you don't get the maximum, it still does a lot of damage. Speed in arena battles by 28%. Buffing his own damage and survivability. I'm a huge fan of He-Man. I'm going to give him an A+. A+. I love He-Man. Thor Feyhammer. This guy is another one of those just absolutely just absurd damage dealers, man. He's like on the same level as Crowhod. In fact, why don't I just pull this up again real quick? So he's on my Ultra Nightmare team for Hydra, and he did, let me pull it up real quick. He kept up with, that's my bad one. He kept up with Marius. Look at that, 178 million out of Marius, 151.5 million out of Thor with a 416 million damage key on Ultra Nightmare. Very, very good damage dealer. He's got, sorry, I need to stop doing that because now I have to get back to it. He's got on the A1, it's a 2-time hitter with a 20% chance of repeating the attack, and each hit decreases the target's turn meter by 10%. Fire Knight, Dark Fae. Very, very good ability for those 2 areas. He's got an AoE on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, but each hit, after hitting the initially selected enemy, all other enemies will be hit in a random order with each subsequent hit, increasing in damage by 25% up to 100% bonus damage that ignores block damage and unkillable. Okay, so not only does this ability hit extremely hard in PvE, but in arena, you're getting block damage and unkillable ignore effects, which think Sir Nick, think Helicath, think Odin, think Nave or Naime, whatever her name is. A lot of really meta champions now have block damage and unkillable. He's just ignoring it. Absolutely incredible. On the A3, it's another AoE. Before attacking, places increased attack, increased crit damage on himself for 2 turns, and then permanently decreases the resistance of each enemy by 10% up to 50% resistance destroy. So again, in areas like arena, live arena, PvP content in general, being able to destroy resistance is really good if the fights are going to go on for a little while. And then also places a decreased speed on all enemies for 2 turns. He's also got this passive here. Every time this champion deals damage, increases his thunder counter by 1 up to 10. Each thunder stack increases the champion's crit damage by 3 up to 30% bonus crit damage. And then once it reaches 10, attacks all enemies and places a stun for 1 turn. So now he's got another AoE ability that you're just passively getting that has crowd control as well. This guy is absolutely gnarly. He's got attack in all battles by 30%. I'm a huge fan of Thor. Like I said, he's on my Ultra Nightmare Hydra team. He's on my Dark Fae teams. He's on my I use him in Curse City all the time. He's in, I use him on some of my arena teams, tag team arena, all over the place, PvE content. This guy annihilates waves. Thor Feyhammer is another S tier champion in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of this guy. Wallmaster Athorian. Wallmaster Athorian looks awesome. Looks awesome. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, sorry about that. Wallmaster Athorian has an AoE on the A1 that will not trigger counterattacks and fills his turn meter by 5% for each living enemy after the attack. So again, I'm thinking Doom Tower and I'm thinking Agrith, right? The poison spider, because the poison spider will spawn spiderlings who counterattack every time you hit them and then heal the boss. So you can get around that with an AoE on the A1. I really like that. He's got a 2-time hitter on the A2 with a block buffs and decrease attack for 2 turns, and then fills his turn meter by 5% for each living enemy after the attack based on enemy max HP. So it's a 2-time enemy max HP hitter. On the passive here, he's got, on the A3, he's got increased attack, increased accuracy, and increased speed for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, then grants an extra turn. So all the essential buffs that he needs to place his debuffs and deal more damage, he's got those. And then he's got the passive here, increases his max HP by 20% for each enemy or Hydra killed. And then it stacks up to a bonus 50,000 HP. So you can make this guy an absolute tank as well. Wallmaster Athorian is S tier in PvE, in my opinion, but he doesn't have really any utility in PvP, in my opinion. You can use him as a damage dealer as you're progressing. Again, he's got an AoE on the A1, so you can use him in a blender comp. But I wouldn't advise that you use him as like your main option. He's going to get outclassed pretty quickly by other damage dealers. Because of that, I'm not going to give him S tier. I'm going to give him A+, because you can use him in arena, although he doesn't have really any of the things that you need in endgame arena. But he is exceptionally good in PvP or in PvE content. I apologize. Already did Armands. He's so good. I built 2. Moving on from there, we've got Ronda. Ronda was a free champion. Rowdy Ronda Rousey. She's got a 3-time hitter on the A1 that places an extra hit if the target has less than 50% HP. So a potential 4-time hitter. Again, Fire Knight. Lovely for Fire Knight. She's even really good in Cintranos hard mode because there are some Fire Knight stages you can use her against. So really good there as well. She's got a 3-time hitter on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown that ignores shield and 30% defense. So a really good damage dealing ability here. Good against in arena. She's good against mercurial sets, but she's also got block passive skills and block active skills for 2 turns that can't be resisted. So irresistible debuffs are really, really good. And the block passive skills is before attacking, which is really key here, because she can go in and block the passives of certain champions like Marichka, like Sun Wukong, all these different champions that have really powerful passives, like that can self-revive and things like that. She can block those abilities, kill them, and then totally neutralize them. It's really powerful. Block active skills is exceptional against mythical champions because it prevents them from changing forms and using their active skills, which is really, really good. So she is, even though she's got single target attacks, she's really good in arena. On the A1 and the A2. On the A3, she's got a 2-time AoE hitter with damage increasing by 30% if the champion has more than 50% HP, and she's immune to turn meter reduction effects from enemies when this skill is not on cooldown. Decrease or 50% instead when it is on cooldown. So you can actually use her in like a pinpoint gear, like a 4-piece pinpoint, to make her sort of an Armand's counter as well, because she's immune to the turn meter steal, but the pinpoint will prevent the stun. So you can use her as kind of like an anti-Armand's type champion, which is really, really cool. She's got the passive here, has a 15% chance to join the an attack whenever an ally attacks an enemy. She'll use her default skill, and then she gets a shield at the start of each round equal to 40% of her max HP, attack in all battles by 30%. So Ronda's best area, in my opinion, is actually arena because of the A2. It hits pretty hard, but an irresistible block passive skills in today's day and age makes her very, very, very good in arena. So she's also really good in PvE content as a wave clearer, again, because of the AoE 2-time hitter. She can deal a ton of damage here. She can neutralize enemies with the block passive and block active in PvE content. And she's actually good against total guard because of the 3-time hitter on the A1 and the A2. Fire Knight, Dark Fae, not Dark Fae, sorry, Fire Knight, very, very good there. I'm going to give Rowdy Ronda Rousey a B. I think she's very good, although a little niche. Noct the Paralyzer is next. This guy's a poison specialist, so he's got a single target, decrease accuracy on the A1. Not a huge fan of decrease accuracy by itself, but it's not bad. On the A2, we've got an AoE, 3-turn cooldown. You're placing sleep for 1 turn and 2 poisons for 2 turns, but it has a passive effect. Places 2 additional poisons for 2 turns whenever an enemy wakes up from a sleep debuff. So 4 poisons essentially on that A2 ability. Really strong. On the A3, we've got Ally Protect and Continuous Heal on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So he's also a protection champion, which is really cool, really interesting. And then he's got a passive heal here. Heals this champion by 3% of their max HP and all allies by 1% of this champion's max HP every time a poison ticks on an enemy. Whenever an ally is attacked while under an ally protection buff, has a 40% chance of placing a sleep on the attack for 1 turn, which leads into the... Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't lead into this ability because it's placed by this skill. So that's a little bit of a bummer. He's got HP in dungeons by 35%, which is a strong aura for that area. Noctis the Paralyzer is a useful support champion that's also bringing poisons and a little bit of control to the team as well. Having said that, he's not as good as some of the other poisoners because he doesn't have combustion in his kit. He's better served as a setup champion for like your Theodore the Savants, your Stock the Brokens. The heals actually surprisingly can do a little bit the heals can be sneaky good. However, being conditional on the poisons, it's cool when it happens, but it's not really it's not really, you don't really catch it that much is what I'm trying to say. And he's definitely not going to heal as much as a traditional healer. So Noctis the Paralyzer, I like him as a support kind of hybrid poison champion in PvE. Outside of that, not super great. So I'm going to give Noctis the Paralyzer a B-. I think he's a solid support champion, but I would like maybe a little bit more, maybe some activation would make him really good. But yeah, I'm going to give him a B-. I do like him. Hackhorn Smash Lord, this guy received a buff. It was a good buff, but not enough in my opinion. So on the A1 here, we've got a single target, 55% chance when booked of placing a stun for 1 turn. It's not bad. It's pretty reliable land rate on the A1. On the A2, he's got a full cleanse from all allies, block debuffs for 2 turns, and then heal by 15% of this champion's max HP with an additional 10% for each debuff removed from them. So conditionally, this is an exceptional heal. It's a strong heal because it's based on his max HP, but if you use him in an area like Agrith the Spider, they're going to place a bunch of poisons on you. You can go in with this, and it's one of the biggest heals in the game, I think, conditionally in that dungeon. Outside of that dungeon, it's a solid heal, but not as good. Block debuffs for 2 turns and a full cleanse is really solid on a 3-turn cooldown. On the A3, he's got an AoE, places a shield on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 20% of the damage dealt. This guy's not a damage dealer, so it's not going to be that big of a shield. That's kind of the bummer, and it's on a 4-turn cooldown. I hate that. HP in dungeons by 33%. The A2 is the highlight of his kit. The A1 and the A3 are both pretty weak. Because of that, I'm going to give Hackhorn Smash Lord a C-. Glorious Palace, however, is next. A Glorious Palace has a single target on the A1 with an ally attack with a random ally from the Argonauts faction, and then heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP. So that's really key there. This champion's max HP is a better heal by their max HP because it's going to be based entirely on her max HP. So really strong heal. She's got a full cleanse and a block debuffs and a fervor on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So we've got block debuffs and we've got damage mitigation and damage buffing with a fervor buff by 10%. Really good. She's got an AoE revive with 50% HP and 50% turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown with a strengthen and increase speed on all allies for 2 turns. A very good AoE heal on a relatively short 4-turn cooldown, but the passive is what takes her from A tier to S tier, in my opinion. Whenever an ally receives a debuff, places a shield on that ally equal to 20% of their max HP for 1 turn, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% at the end of this champion's turn. So you're just passively getting an extremely strong turn meter fill every time she takes a turn. The amount of turn meter manipulation that you get over an extended fight with this champion is mind-boggling. It's so good. She very quickly made it onto all of my end game teams. So Chimera, Hydra, Clan Boss. She's in my Grim Forest lineup for hard mode. She's in Centranos. Anytime I see her in Centranos, she gets selected. She's really good in Arena as well because of the fervor, because of the strong revive, because of the heal on the A1. You can pair her up with like a Cassandra or a Pelops to get some ally attacks in there as well to chip away at Mercurial. She's got resistant all battles by 50, which is a strong aura. Not the best resist aura, but it's a strong one. I very quickly become a huge fan of resistance builds. So I love that. Glorious Palace is a very, very good champion. I think she's S tier. And then I pair her with Mervara as well to get just tons of ally attacks as well. So I'm a huge fan of Glorious Palace. Funny enough, the next champion we're reviewing, Elva Autumnborn, used to be my favorite support champion in the game. Now it goes Donnie, Glorious Palace, and then Elva. So Elva has fallen a little bit, but she's still really, really good. She's a Sylvan Watcher support champion. She's got a single target A1 with a continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP for 2 turns. So some really good healing on that on that A1 there. She's got a full cleanse on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown, and then places block debuffs and increased speed. So again, like we've got a full cleanse with block debuffs and fervor. And then on this one, we've got a full cleanse of block debuffs and increased speed. So a little bit different, but that increased speed is really, really good. She's got a single target revive with 40% HP and 50% turn meter, and then places an increased defense and increased attack on that ally for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. It's a strong single target revive. She's got the passive heal here, heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. So it's a good, solid heal every time you're taking a turn. And then places a perfect veil on the ally with the lowest HP at the end of this champion's turn for 1 turn. So that revive winds up being an increased defense, increased attack, and perfect veil as well, which is really good. She's got increased speed in all battles by 19%. Elva Autumnborn is... she's very, very, very good in PvE content. I think she's a very exceptional PvE champion. In PvP, I don't see her a lot, but she can be strong in a really fast 9-piece protection build in Arena to get protected, increased speed, block debuffs, and so on and so forth. Now, having said that, I don't see her in Arena really ever. It's very rare. So I'm going to give Elva Autumnborn an A+. I think that it's hard. I really don't want to be handing out S tiers to all these different champions, but Elva, I think you can make a case that she's S tier, maybe missing a little bit something in her kit for PvP, and that would push her into S tier. Like Glorious Palace with the turn meter fill on the passive, with the revive, with the fervor, with all this stuff, I think you can make a case that she's also really good in Arena. I think the Elva's missing a little something that could push her into S tier categories. So, but A+ is still really, really good, man. So let me see here. Next, we've got Alexander the Sharpshooter. And we're actually getting pretty close to the end here. I think I'm making pretty good time. So Alexander the Sharpshooter, again, this was a collaboration guy for a CSGO player, I think is what it was. I don't watch CSGO. I don't play that game. But I think what they said was he was at one point like the best CSGO player ever at that point. I don't know if that's still the case this many years later. But Alexander the Sharpshooter, high elf attack-based champion. Really cool looking champion. I like the color theme of this champion. The face does look a little weird, to be honest with you, but the design of the champion is really cool. So he's got a single target attack on the A1 with a 50% chance of placing freeze for 1 turn. Not bad, but it increases to 75% chance against enemies from the Orc and Ogre tribe factions. So he doesn't like the Orcs or the Ogres. A little interesting. I wonder what's going on there. He's got a 3-turn cooldown, 4-turn books to a 3-turn cooldown on the A2. It's an AoE, places drop defense for 2 turns, and also places a weaken from enemies under the from the Orc and Ogre tribe faction. So a conditional AoE drop defense and weaken. I think that they could have gone about this a different way to make it a conditional drop defense and weaken on everybody, but you know, it is what it is. That does hurt his utility, in my opinion. And then he's got a single target attack on the A3 on a 5-turn books to a 4-turn cooldown. It's a full buff strip, but he removes all buffs before attacking if they're from the Orc and Ogre tribes factions. So he really doesn't like orcs and he really doesn't like ogres. But that does hurt his kit, in my opinion. If these weren't conditionals, I would actually say that he'd be a pretty solid champ. Because of the conditionals, I'm giving him a C minus. The AoE drop defense isn't bad. Hate that the weaken is conditional. The freeze isn't bad on the A1, and the full buff strip isn't bad on the A3. It's just that it's also not great that the way that they made everything conditional. So I'm going to give him a C minus. I don't really use him. He's really only Faction Wars for me. Drop defense and Faction Wars is mainly where I use this guy. All right. All right. So we've got Narma the Returns now. Knight's Revenant support champion. She actually recently got a really good buff. So I'm not going to go over everything they changed, but she did get a really good buff. So she's got a single target attack, which has a 50, books up to 75% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Solid A1. She's got a single target attack on a 5-turn cooldown, books to a 3-turn cooldown. That has a 75, books up to 100% chance of placing drop attack for 3 turns, and then places a leech on all enemies for 2 turns and instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies, and then heals all allies by 25% of this champion's max HP. So drop attack, leech, instant activation of poisons, and a heal all on a 3-turn cooldown is absolutely incredible. On the A3, she's got a single target attack that places poison, 3 poisons, and a poison sensitivity for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. And then if the initial target is already under 3 or more debuffs, it's an AoE instead. So it's an all enemies poison and poison sensitivity for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and then instant activation of all those poisons on the A2 with a massive heal. On the passive, she's got whenever an ally is attacked, has a 25% chance of placing a poison on the attacker for 2 turns, or 50% when she's attacked. Enemies under poison debuffs inflict 5% less damage per each poison on them, up to 25% damage mitigation. That is incredible. I'm sorry, guys. I keep burping a little bit. That's an incredible passive. 25% damage mitigation is absolutely nuts. She's got accuracy in dungeons by 80 as well. So very, very good aura for dungeons. I think that they made her an exceptional Faction Wars champion, an exceptional dungeon champion, wave clearer, boss killer, healer, survivability with a drop attack, with a damage mitigation. Even though the accuracy in dungeons is a little bit limited, you can use her in all sorts of wave-based content, Doom Tower, waves. Let me think Doom Tower bosses here. Any of the bosses that are susceptible to poisons, really, in any area that you need damage mitigation. I think they killed it with the Narma buff. Not really good in PvP, but that's fine. Not everyone has to be. I think that Narma is an A tier champion now. I think she's really, really good. The only reason I don't have her booked is because I already have so many poison combustion champions and poison champions that I just don't need another one. But if I didn't have those champions, I would absolutely invest in the books for Narma the Return. She's very, very good. Moving on from there, we've got Tyrant Ixilmore. Is it Lixilmore? I don't know how you pronounce it. Anyway, it's the Tyrant, right? HP-based champion out of the Demon Spawn faction. He's got a single target attack that heals his champion by 25% of the damage inflicted, or 50% if he's attacking enemies under an HP burn. He's got an AoE HP burn for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That's solid. And then he's got Ally Protect and increased defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. He's got a passive here, decreases the damage inflicted by enemies under HP burn by 10%. So he's got damage mitigation on the passive. He's got protection on the A3. He's got HP burns on the A2, and he's got some healing on the A1. Tyrant Ixilmore is a solid champion, man, but he's one of those champions that I think you probably get past him pretty quick on your account. So for progression, I think he's a solid champion, but I think you'll quickly outgrow him because of that. The kit is just very simple for a legendary. So because of that, I'm going to give Tyrant Ixelmore B minus. However, I do think that if you pull him early on your account, I do think he's worth taking to level 60. You don't have to book him because you're getting the HP burn for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown at a 75% land rate. It's a reliable kit in the sense that, and look at this, you're getting an ally protect. It's only on a 4-turn cooldown. In the grand scheme of things, that's not that bad. So you don't necessarily have to book this guy to get a lot of value out of him, which is really, really good for early game accounts as well. So Tyrant Ixelmore B minus. I'm a fan, but I don't use him hardly anywhere. Sathalia. I used to use Sathalia everywhere. She was my main healer, main buff stripper, main turn meter manipulator. She actually has a lot in her kit. So she's got a 60% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns on a single target on the A1. She's got a full cleanse on a target ally with block debuffs for 2 turns and a 75% heal of their max HP, and then heals all other allies by 20% of their max HP and fills their turn meter by 15% if the target is fully healed by the skill on a 2-turn cooldown. That is a massive heal to have on a 2-turn cooldown, and it's a good heal and turn meter fill on everyone else as well. On the A3, she's got a 3-turn cooldown here, a 100% chance of fully stripping all buffs from all enemies, and then dropping their turn meter by 10%, and turn meter fill on all allies by 10%, or 20% instead if 5 or more buffs are removed. She's got magic resist in all battles by 50. Don't like that aura. Very, very good. I used to use her a lot in Arena. I used to use her. I still use her a lot in Faction Wars Hard. I used to use her a bunch. I used to use her in the Frost Spider for the HP burn on the A1. She was my main support champion for a little while, and so I started collecting some of these more powerful ones. So Thalia, I have a soft spot for her, although the kit has been power crept a little bit. So I'm going to give her a B. I think she's still a strong support champion. She's just been power crept a little bit. All right, guys, one more break before we wrap up. I apologize, but I'm not used to this, like I said, so I just need to stretch my back a little bit because I've been standing for a little while, and then I just need to grab another drink. So just give me 1 second, and we'll wrap up. We'll kick off with Lord Champfort when we come back, okay? I'll see you in a bit. All right, guys, I'm back. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up. We're going to kick it off here with Lord Champfort, Bannerlord, HP-based champion. I think I've been bad about the naming the faction and type of champion. I apologize. Bannerlord, HP based champion. He's got a single target attack with a 45% chance of placing drop defense. It's okay. On the A2, he's got AoE, drop accuracy, drop attack on a 4-turn, books to a 3-turn cooldown, but you don't have to book this to get the percentage chance. So even though it's on a 4-turn cooldown, you can actually get around that with some of the newer sets in the game, which is really cool. So I actually wouldn't advise booking this champion. I would just leave him as he is and maybe run him in like an impulse set or a reflex set to get the drop accuracy and drop attack. This ability is actually really good just in dungeons against bosses. So a lot of the dungeon bosses are going to place debuffs and they're going to hit you really hard. He's going to circumvent that a little bit, which is really cool. On the passive here, on a 2-turn cooldown, this is booked to a 1-turn cooldown, but I don't think you really need it. At the start of each turn, places a shield on this champion equal to 20% of the max HP for 2 turns and places a 15% decreased speed for 1 turn on whichever enemy attacks this champion. Now, the decreased speed isn't on a cooldown. It's the shield that's on a cooldown. So they don't really delineate that, but you don't need the cooldown for the speed. You're getting it every time. Now, the decreased speed on the passive actually makes him, in my opinion, the best champion for drop speed for the Iron Twins, because you don't have to do anything. Just build them with enough accuracy. The boss is going to hit you, and then you're going to place drop speed. So you totally neutralize that boss every time he attacks you. So you have decreased speed up for basically the entire fight. He'll cleanse it, hit you, and then it gets placed again. So it's really, really good. Having said that, no utility in PvP, even in the early game. I don't think he has any utility in PvP at all. Doom Tower, I don't think he has very much utility there. You can use him as a tanky bolster set champion, I guess, in some areas of PvE content. Not good against the clan bosses. This guy is very much through and through a dungeon champion. He's got HP in dungeons by 50%. Very powerful dungeon aura. So it's hard to grade him because I actually think that he's a very good dungeon champion, but he has no utility outside of that. So because of that, I'm going to give him a C minus. He's not a D in my opinion or an F because I actually do think that he brings value in dungeons. It's just outside of that, I don't think you can use him anywhere. I don't think he has the kit for it. So we already did one Wall Master, so we won't do another one, but we'll do Zenogre Blade Master, Zenogre Blade Master. 3-time hitter on the A1, with each hit having a 30% chance of placing weakened for 2 turns. A strong A1. Good against Fire Knight, good against Clan Boss, good against Chimera. She's actually a very, very good Chimera champion because she enables you to complete a bunch of the trials. So keep that in mind. On the A2, it's a 3-turn cooldown when booked. It's a 4-time hitter, with each hit increases each hit increases her turn meter by 5%, so a 20% turn meter fill, and then increase speed on all allies for 2 turns. Very strong. And then she's got a 4-time hitter on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown on a single target enemy. Before attacking, places increased attack on herself. The first 2 hits place leech. The second 2 hits place decrease attack, both for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. She's got a passive and an active effect here. So the passive increases the damage this champion deals by 1% for every 1% of HP lost, up to 50%. So if you get her to 50% HP, she's dealing 50% more damage. And then the damage doubles if the target is under a drop defense debuff. So you can basically double that to a 100% damage buff if they're under drop defense, and she has half HP. On a 4-turn cooldown, we have prevents her death and keeps her alive on 1 HP when hit with a fatal hit. And then if it prevents this champion's death, heals them by 50% of their max HP, so enabling the 50% damage increase as well. But if they're under heal reduction, it will not prevent the death. Speed in dungeons by 30%. So Zenogre Blade Master is like S tier against the Fire Knight because you're getting an increased speed with a 4-time hitter with a speed in dungeons by 30%. So you can essentially get, just by this champion alone, an extra like 60 speed on your champions. It's very good. She's good against all the bosses though, because she has 2 very important debuffs with leech and drop attack. So drop attack is going to make sure you're not taking a lot of damage, and then leech is going to enable your champions to heal against the bosses. So very good there. And then, like I said, she's bringing a lot of buffs and debuffs that you need with the increased speed, with the leech, with the drop attack, with the increased attack, to enable you to complete some of the trials on some of the harder versions of Chimera. So Zenogre Blade Master, kind of a hard one to judge. I don't use her in PvP. I don't really even use her in Faction Wars. But I think she's very good in dungeons. I think she's another dungeon specialist champion, and I think that's fine. So I'm going to give Zenogre Blade Master a B minus. All right, so moving on from there, we've got Oella, support champion out of the Sylvan Watchers. Very cool looking champion, but it's very bright. I feel like I get flashbanged every time I, like, look at this. I kind of dark, and then flashbang, boom, bright. There it is. Oella's got she's actually the second best drop speed champion in the game, in my opinion, for Iron Twins, because she has a 100% chance of placing drop speed for 2 turns on the A1, and it can't be resisted if all 10 of the shell is on the same team. She's got a 30% heal on all allies based on their max HP. It's a strong heal, even though it's based on their max HP because it's 30%, and then increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. Very strong. She's got a turn meter fill by 30%. Very powerful turn meter fill on a 3-turn cooldown, and then places increased resistance on all allies for 2 turns. She's got a passive here. Whenever an ally loses 15% or more of their max HP from a single hit, places a continuous heal on that ally for 1 turn or for 2 turns and instantly activates it instead if all 10 of the shell is on the same team, can occur once per ally turn. She's got resistance in dungeons by 75%. Oella is a very strong support champion. She doesn't need all 10 of the shell to be very good, but all 10 of the shell does make her a lot better with the irresistible A1 and with the instant activation on the passive as well. Having said that, I don't think it makes her that much better I may have contradicted myself there. I think that she's a lot better. And then I said, she doesn't make her that much better. It doesn't make her that much better, but it does make her better, right? So I'm going to do two things here. I think I'm going to grade her with and without all 10 of the shell. So without all 10 of the shell, I'm going to give her an A minus. And with all 10 of the shell, I'm going to give her an A. I think that's fair. I think the irresistible drop speed is really good. And I think the instant activation, obviously, it is better, but it's not that much better. It's still a really good ability, even without all 10 of the shell. So A without A, or I'm sorry, A minus without A with. Shemnath, attack-based Knights Revenant, the Statue of Liberty with some roses, some purple roses. Looks really cool. I like this champion. She's got a 2-time hitter on the A2 with each hit having a chance of placing drop defense. Pretty solid. She's got a transfer of all debuffs from this champion to a target enemy and then attacks that enemy 3 times. The first hit increases the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. The second hit decreases the duration of all buffs by 1 turn, and then also increases the duration of all buffs on this champion by 1 turn after attacking. So it's a pretty solid ability on a 5-turn cooldown, 3 turns when booked. I would say it doesn't hit super hard, but you're getting a lot of utility out of this as well, so that's pretty good. And then on a 4-turn cooldown, 3 when booked on the A3, it's a 2-time AoE hitter with the first hit fully removing all buffs from each target, and then the second hit ignoring 20% of the target's defense against targets that have no active buffs. On the passive, increases the champion's accuracy by 10 for each buff on each enemy, and then increases the champion's crit damage by 5% for each debuff on each enemy, up to 100% more crit damage. So Shemnath, an interesting kind of utility champion, a hybrid kind of debuffer, damage dealer, like negative effect damage dealer type champion. Doesn't deal a ton of damage, but I think she does enough to compensate for not being like a super high dealing damage dealer. I really only use Shemnath in Cursed City when she shows up. She can be good in faction wars. I think she can be good in PvE content as a buff stripper as well. So Shemnath, I'm going to give a B. Killian the Lucky, very cool looking champion, St. Patrick's Day champion. I love the 4-leaf clover type stuff. On the A1 here, we've got a 2-time hitter with each hit having a 70 or 35 books up to 50% chance of placing drop speed for 2 turns. And then also has a 35 books up to 50% chance of stealing 30% of the target's current turn meter. So 50-50 chance. It's not horrible, but it doesn't feel good when you don't get the effects, right? So I will say that. He's got an AoE on a 4-turn cooldown, though, with a 100% chance of placing block active skills for 2 turns. Now, if this were on a 3-turn cooldown, I think it would be a lot better. But being a 4-turn cooldown, not super great. Block active skills is good, but it's not great in PvE. It's really good against mythical champions. So if you go up against an all mythical champion team, this could be a very good ability. But outside of that, I would say it's not very strong. He does have a strong A3 though. So on a 5-turn, books to a 3-turn cooldown. It's a single target attack that has a 100% chance when booked of placing a stun for 2 turns and steals 50% of the target's current turn meter, and then resets the cooldown if the target is killed. He's also got a passive here, places 2 of the following buffs on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each turn, either an increased attack, increased crit damage, increased crit rate, strengthen, block damage, or increase accuracy. So it's kind of random, which again, I'm fine with that for the St. Patrick's Day champions, kind of the luck of the Irish thing. So a little bit of RNG in his kit with the A1 and the passive. The A3 is very strong, but the A2 is a little bit weak in my opinion. So I'm going to give Killian the Lucky a C minus. I think the RNG on the A2, on the A1 and the A3 hurt him, even though they're fun in my opinion. They do hurt him. The 4-turn cooldown on the block active skills really hurts him, but he gains some value back by having a very strong single target stun on the A3 for 2 turns. Michinaki, this guy, when he was introduced to the game, I wanted this guy so bad, man. Look at him. He's so cool. So cool. He's got the head that he uses as a weapon. He's a skull. He's like the Ghost Rider of the Raid Shadow Legends universe. One of the cooler looking champions in the game. Michinaki, has a 60% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns on the A1. He's got an AoE, drop defense, and then if they're under Hex, places drop attack as well. That's a fantastic AoE ability on a 3-turn cooldown. And then he's got a 2-time hitter on a 3-turn cooldown on an AoE, with the first hit removing all buffs and the second hit placing a Hex for 2 turns. So full buff strip and Hex. This makes him very good against Hydra, makes him very good in a lot of PvE content. It even has some utility in PvP as well with full buff strip. He's got a passive as well. Whenever an ally attacks an enemy under a Hex, this champion has a 50% chance to team up and join the ally's attack. So again, that leads to more single target HP burns on the A1. He's got defense in all battles by 30%. He's a defensive based damage dealer. Michinaki is very good against the classic clan boss. He's very good against Hydra. I think he also is probably pretty good against Chimera, although I haven't actually used him in there yet. I pair him up with a Mikage, and he's smacking people all day with that headless chain guy he's got. He's going to beat him to a pulp with it. I think that he's very good in Grim Forest because of the HP burn. That's an important debuff to have. But then also being able to buff strip some of those bosses as well is very, very good. The ally attacking is very good. I'm going to give Michinaki an A+. I think he has utility pretty much everywhere in the game. Basatha, Lizard HP based champion, a Doom Tower hard reward champion, and that's going to play into the grade that I give this champion. So it's a single target, 40, books up to 60% chance of placing drop attack for 2 turns. Pretty weak A1 in my opinion. On the A2, it's a strength and continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, with a shield equal to 25% of this champion's max HP on allies under a crowd control debuff. I don't like the conditionality there. Strength and a continuous heal are good, but the conditional shield I don't like. On the A3, it's a 75% chance of placing stun with a 30% turn meter drop. On A5, books to a 4-turn cooldown. That's weak in Raid Shadow Legends in 2026. And then on the passive, whenever an enemy is revived, has a 75, books up to 100% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn that can't be resisted or blocked. HP in all battles by 31%. It takes so long to get this champion that I hate this champion. There are some good things about it. The passive is fun. The A2 is really strong. The A3 is weak and the A1 is weak. By the time you get this champion, you're never really going to use him. I never use him. I think I would relegate him basically to just Faction Wars. So because of that, I'm going to give him an F. He's the only F, I think. No, he's not. I just looked at my list. He's not the only F, but he is one of the few Fs on the list, and I think he's worthy of it. It's going to take you forever to get this guy because you get him from Doom Tower hard, and he's not the first champion, I don't think. Maybe he is. You guys can remind me. But by the time you get him, he's basically worthless. So F for Basatha. Under Priest Brogni, however, support champion out of the Jorah's faction. He's got a single target attack that has a 45, books up to 60% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns, solid A1. He's got an AoE, 100% chance when booked of removing a random buff from all enemies, and then has a 100% chance of removing a random debuff from all allies, and then increases the value of all shields on all allies by 30% of the damage inflicted. So a strong A2. Shield growth. He's got a block debuffs, increase attack, and shield on all allies for 2 turns. Up to the shield is equal to 30% of this champion's max HP, and the shield is protected on a 3-turn cooldown. So shield growth, protected shield with shield growth, and then he's got the passive as well. Whenever an ally under a shield is attacked, reflects a quarter of the damage inflicted onto the attacker, and then heals that ally by 25% of the damage inflicted onto the shield. He's got resistant Doom Towers by 60. Under Priest Brogni, you don't see him. He got power crept, I think, a little bit by Wixwell, but this guy was like the OG shield growth champion, and that passive is really, really good as well for the clan bosses. So, but he's also just a very good support champion in PvE content. I don't think he's as good in PvP anymore because shield, even though it's a protected shield, you have champions like, White King Narcissus that's going to come in and deal a ton more damage because of the shield. You got a lot of ignore shield champions now inside of the game. And then you've just got a lot of crowd control champions that they're basically just going to wear you out until the shield goes off. So unfortunately in PvP, I don't think he's that good anymore. But in PvE, I still think he's a very, very good champion. I'm going to give Brogni an A. Lanakis the Chosen, Dark Elf support champion. She's got a single target attack on the A1 with a continuous heal on herself if the attack is critical. Don't like that. Don't like that conditionality. On the A2, it's on a 5 books to a 4-turn cooldown. Sorry, teams up with 3 random allies. Don't like that, to attack a single enemy. The allies joining in the attack will use their default skills, and then fills the turn meter of all allies by 30% and increases the duration of all buffs by 1 turn. So I like the second part of that. The turn meter feels really strong, and the duration increased by 1 turn is really strong. I don't like the 3 random allies though. So I'm not a huge fan of the ability. I think it would be better if it were an all ally attack. She's got increased crit rate, increased attack on all allies for 2 turns, and then it has a 25 books up to 50% chance of granting an extra turn on a 5 books to a 4-turn cooldown. So a little bit of RNG involved in the kit as well. I'm not a huge fan of that. So because of that, I'm going to give Lanakis the Chosen a C-. I do like ally attack champions, and the ally attack is made stronger by the turn meter fill and the duration increase on all buffs by a turn. But it's a pretty weak A1 in my opinion, and it's a pretty weak A3 in my opinion, because you're not getting the guaranteed chance of getting an extra turn. If you don't book her, it's only a 25% chance. So not a huge fan of that. However, I would say put her in a relentless build to get more of a chance to get that extra turn after the A3, or on the A3. After that, we've got Grohawk the Bloodied. Attack-based orc champion. Looks really cool. Unfortunately, he is trash. So he's got a 2-time random hitter on the A1, with each hit having a 35 books up to 50% chance of placing drop speed for 2 turns. Pretty weak A1. He's got an AoE with each critical hit filling the champion's turn meter by 20% on a 3-turn cooldown. Doesn't hit very hard, but you don't have to book it, so at least there's that. And then on the A3, he's gotten on a 5-turn books to a 4-turn cooldown, attacks one enemy and steals their turn meter, and then places a weaken for 2 turns if the attack is critical. Pretty weak in my opinion. Again, power crept pretty heavily by our Mons. Speed in dungeons by 24% though is a pretty strong aura. I think they buffed Grohawk 1 or 2 times, and it's still just not enough. This guy's trash. The A2 doesn't hit hard. The A1 doesn't hit hard. The A3 doesn't hit hard. He's been power crept by champions like Armands. And then he's also, so read this ability, AoE, each critical hit fills the champion's turn meter by 20% on a 3-turn cooldown. AoE fills the champion's turn meter by 20% on each critical hit on a 2-turn cooldown. So he's power crept by an uncommon champion. Grohawk the Bloodied is trash. Give him another buff. Give him as many buffs as it takes. He's trash. He gets another F. He's the only other F on the list. Spoiler alert. After that, we've got Crypt King Grawl. He's got a single target attack with a 60% chance of placing drop attack, or 100% chance if they're under HP burn or freeze. Pretty good. He's got an AoE 75 books up to 100% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. And then he's got an AoE freeze for 1 turn and HP burn for 3 turns on targets already under HP burn debuffs. The HP burn can't be resisted. So it's a conditional freeze if they're already under HP burn. I'm not a huge fan of the kit. It seems like it would synergize well, but it doesn't really synergize well. He's got HP in all battles by 33%. Pretty okay aura, but like, so you've got to place the HP burn that they can resist. So you've got to build them with accuracy. And then you go in and then you place the freeze because they're under an HP burn, but you need accuracy to place the freeze. And then if they're already under an HP burn, you get an HP burn for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, but the HP burn can't be resisted. So in my opinion, it is a pretty bad kit. I'm not a fan of this guy. I've tried making him work in a couple different areas, and he just doesn't really work anywhere. So because of that, I'm going to give Crypt King Grawl a D+. Longbeard, another ally attack champion, Skinwalker attack-based champion. He's got a single target which ignores shield and block damage. Block damage ignore on the A1 is actually pretty solid for arena because he has an ally attack as well. On the A2, he's got a single target weaken for 2 turns on a 3-turn books to a 2-turn cooldown. It used to be that a 2-turn weaken for 2-turn on a 2-turn cooldown would be considered really strong, but in today's day and age, I don't think that's the case anymore. You can get epic champions with AoE weakens for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So even though it books to a 2-turn cooldown, I don't think that's as valuable as an AoE weaken for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So pretty bad in my opinion. And then he's got a ally attack with 4 allies and increases the damage inflicted by 20% on a 4-turn cooldown. That is a pretty strong ally attack. It's with 4 allies, but that's going to be all of your allies, right? So, and then it's going to lead into a block damage ignore on the A1. He's got crit rate in dungeons by 23%. Pretty trash aura, in my opinion. So, the ally attack is okay. It's on a longer cooldown. Wish it were on a 3-turn cooldown. The A1 ignore shield and block damage, which is nice, but he doesn't do that much damage. And he's got a pretty weak A2 as well. So I'm going to give Crypt King a C-. Altan, okay. He's got a single target, 60% chance of placing drop attack, books up to 75% chance. It's actually not a horrible A1. It's just that, you know, when I read these, I'm thinking like this is very epic-y now. So it's like, it's not bad, but it's also not great for a legendary champion anymore. And that's the same case with all of these champions, because we had quite a few that had a similar ability to this. So it's not bad, but it's like, in my opinion, those all scream kind of epic level champion abilities now. He's got a single target, which places increased defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn, books to a 3-turn cooldown, and then places a shield on all allies for 2 turns by 20% of their max HP if this attack kills an enemy. So this is a pretty trash ability, I'm not going to lie. Defensive-based champion, by the way. So a conditional shield if you kill an enemy on an ability that really just doesn't hit that hard anymore. And then he's got a passive here, revives a random ally with 30% HP every time this champion kills an enemy, and then resets the cooldown of this champion's skills if this champion kills an enemy and all allies are alive. But the problem is that you're not going to be killing many champions with these abilities. So Altan of the Shell, I actually have him as a D- on my list, but I think I'm going to downgrade him to an F. I think I'm going to go against my word. I think he's going to be the final F on the list. Altan of the Shell, very trash. It needs a buff, in my opinion. Norog did get a buff, and I think that he or she, whatever it is, the piggy, I think better, but still not, in my opinion, super worthy of, like, I don't know. Let's go over the kit. We'll talk about it a little bit. Single target with a 55 books up to, what would that be? 75% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs on the target by 1 turn. Pretty solid. And then has an 80 books up to 100% chance of placing block active skills for 1 turn. So not a bad A1 in all honesty. Decreasing duration of buffs, block active skills, again, on like mythical champions, pretty solid. So not bad. On the A2, it's a AoE, block buffs, and drop defense for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. The only problem with this ability is that if you get Ugo, who's an epic, you get the same ability. It's the exact same ability. So I'm not a huge fan of that. But on the passive, Norog is immune to all crowd control debuffs, including Sheep, which is pretty cool. And then decreases the damage all allies take, decreases the damage taken by all allies, that are under 1 or more buff by 15%, or 25% if they're under no active buffs. So some damage mitigation in there as well, which I do like. However, the A1 is solid. The A2 is literally an epic ability, so that's not great for a legendary champion. And then the passive as well, I do like. However, this champion, you're not really going to be using him or her in arena that much. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. But against Hydra, against the Fearhead, really against all of them, because they all have, to a certain extent, they all have, not all of them, but they have Provoke, they have True Fear, they have Fear. So being able to be immune to that is actually pretty good for Hydra, to be fair. So because of that, I am going to give Norog a C. I think the buff made Norog better, but not that much better. So a C. I think a C is fair. Finally, wrapping up with Ray, an attack-based Dark Elf champion. She's got an AoE on the A1 with a 30, books up to 50% chance of placing the big version of drop defense for 2 turns. So an AoE drop defense on the A1 at a pretty reliable 50% chance is actually really solid for a legendary attack-based champion. On the A2, it's another AoE on a 4-turn cooldown. Inflicts 50% more damage against targets under any debuff. So places drop defense and weaken on them, and this ability can actually smack because of that 50% bonus damage. On the A3, it's an AoE, another AoE with a full buff strip, and then a 50 books up to 70% chance of placing a freeze for 1 turn on a 7-turn cooldown, books to a 6-turn cooldown. Speed in dungeons, though, by 33% is a very powerful speed aura. Now, Ray... Oh, sorry about that. I thought I heard something. Ray is actually a very solid wave clearer. You can use her as a campaign farmer. I don't think she's good against any of the bosses in the game. You can actually use her in arena as a buff stripper with a chance of placing freeze. I do like that as an opening move in the arena. Having said that, I don't think that she's super viable in arena, especially when you get to the end game. But again, blender comps, because the AoE on the A1, if you have her go first on the blender comp, she has a chance of placing the drop defense as well, which is really good. So some utility there. I think I'm going to give Ray a B. I think I wrote down B. I did. I put B because I think just as a damage dealer, I think she's actually really solid. Solid as a wave clearer. There's some utility there in arena with the buff strip, with the freeze, bonus damage that scales pretty well, albeit she does have long cooldowns, so that's kind of the trade-off. So if you don't have her booked, you're going to be using the A1 a lot. So just keep that in mind. So Ray's going to get a B. Guys, that's going to do it for me. I tried to get through it as fast as possible. I know I ramble sometimes, so I apologize, but I do appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate you guys, all the support, the comments, the subscriptions, the views, all of that. I really do appreciate it. I might be taking a little bit of time off of uploading some videos in the near future. So just a spoiler alert, I'm looking into career shift. So I'm not going to be sticking with Aldi. I just recently found out that they have been misleading me for the past year about promotion that I've been asking for. They have been telling me that I was on a list. And then I just recently found out that they decided last year that they weren't going to be promoting me. They just kind of led me along. So I am making a career shift. I don't know where yet. I've got a couple of interviews coming up that hopefully go well, hopefully to get out of retail and customer service entirely, maybe into sales or office work, something like that. So if that does go through, I may be taking some time off to maybe move around a little bit. I might be moving back up to Kansas City. I don't know. So just a forewarning. But again, I just want to thank you guys. I really appreciate you. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.